Hey folks, it's good to see you. Even though what a I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I'm doing this. Uh, if you'll notice, apparently I'm now Mr. DiMartino from Daria. I get real stressed out or something, and my eye just yeah. And so I actually didn't want to record this because I was like, well, I guess I could just do voice with my little PNG, but I want to be more in the habit of saying like if I am able to show up, if I show up as me, then that's enough. If I'm healthy, if I'm not burning myself out, then it's time to go. Waiting for what feels like 100% before pressing the button means there are going to be a lot of times that the button doesn't get pressed. And now's not the time for that. I've had a number of conversations with folks since Tuesday. And I've talked to all kinds of different friends, partners, people back in the Midwest, people here on the West Coast. And the thing that I am really struck by is how varied the responses are. That I remember 2016, the day after the election, feeling like there was this grayscale tone that wrapped itself around the day. I remember hugging friends, going to the co-working space I was at, and so much time of friends crying on my shoulder, of just, yeah. And this time around, there are certainly tears. There's frustration. And I think there's a fear that many of us are feeling that is more concrete, that's more grounded. And in that regard, it's more intimidating. This isn't 2016. This isn't this random seeming blowhard found his way into the Oval Office and doesn't know what's going on, and nobody around him does either. This is coordinated. This is 8+ years of developing a cult of personality. This is a machine that, as dysfunctional as it can be, in other times can be relatively well oiled. And it is a machine with a specific target, multiple targets that it has been choosing over the past, particularly, couple of years. Trans folks, immigrants as a whole, apparently, and for people of color who apparently feel that this party represents them, um, don't know how much that feeling will be maintained in the months and years to come. But I say these things because the reactions that I've been getting from people, even though they've been varied, they haven't all been. Though I say that the fear is grounded, the reactions have not been grounded in fear. Though the fear is grounded, the reactions are not grounded in fear. What I see developing is something else. In many of us, a an adaptation, a resilience, Perhaps to a certain extent, this is a shock. Maybe this is a response of, as a friend put it, not recognizing, um, not recognizing yet the death of the body, and still acting the chicken with its head cut off, the whatnot. But what I am choosing to believe, what I'm leaning into, are the conversations, the feelings that I am having, that I'm getting from friends, from family, who are saying, we're gonna get through it. I understand the if I'm gonna sit here and say we're all gonna make it, everything's gonna be okay, I can look back at 2016 and know that wasn't the case. For whatever way we regard COVID now, we have to remember that there are million plus people who are not here to regard COVID at all. And that a significant part of that came from the response from the administration in 2020, from the Trump administration. I made a longer, kind of ramblier video that I don't know whether I'm going to post or not, but it is interesting the kind of memory hole that exists when I think about what times were like during the Trump administration, how much time I spent fixated on thinking about politics and trying to anticipate the next move, particularly living here in Portland, where we became, public enemy number one. And there was such a difference between what people were seeing on the news and what was actually happening. The city has not burned down, friends. It's still here. It's still beautiful, frankly. I say all this because I find that a number of my friends, their reactions have brought a level of hope, a resilience, a dialing in to understanding that what makes them happy, what motivates them, what pushes them forward is still important. I had a dinner with a couple of friends, and one of them was just like, I am not going to let this man burrow his way into my head the way that he did last time. I relate to that so much. I don't know what's coming. I I I would say I wish I did, but I probably don't. But I know that what we make is important, that who we are is important. What we do is important. I sent a newsletter that talked about casting your vote to make a choice. That big changes are the result of a lot of little changes and a lot of little choices. And even as we look at what seems like a future that has disregarded our choices, we don't have to disregard our choices. The importance of taking that step, of casting that vote, of doing that reflection, is that we are personally taking the small step that gives us the opportunity to take another step in that direction, and another step, and another step. Those are the things that make change over time. If/when things get quite bad, we will have to rely on the us that we have cultivated in the months prior, in the ways that we have made those little changes, the steps that we have taken. I've been watching a lot of TikTok videos, a lot of YouTube reactions, a wide variety of takes. And what I realized as I was watching some of these was that, yes, on one hand, there was some doom scrolling perhaps I was doing. But there were videos from people that I was watching that were helping me dial in, that were giving me a sense of focus. Hank Green has a video that he just published today about these maps are lying. If you've seen the there are two charts. He actually references the two images, the two graphics that I've seen the most circulating around since the election. One is the bar graph that shows, there were this many million Democrat votes, and then this many million Democrat votes just left, and where did the 15 million votes go? And folks on the right have been using that as their justification for 2020 being a stolen election. Folks on the left have been using that as the justification for 2024 being a stolen election. And it foments the kind of conspiratorial and nervous thinking that propels us to fear and fear-based action. And Hank Green's point, which I think is a great point, is that that bar chart, even if the data were totally accurate, it's not all the votes, because there are still plenty of states who haven't submitted their final vote counts yet. California takes a long time to finish their vote count. So we don't actually know how many millions of votes are missing. And I will say that personally, I would not be surprised if there was a significant amount of the voting electorate that just dropped out, that said, nah, not this year. Not after what I've been watching, I'm out. I think particularly when we think of, for instance, Arab Americans who are like, I can't circle the bubble for somebody who every time that I try to bring up how my people are being genocided, the first words out of their mouth are, Israel has the right to defend itself. I am actually very curious about how many votes, how many ballots were cast with no presidential selection. That's a story for another day. There's another chart, another image that's been going around, one of the America with all the red arrows, shows America swinging to the right. And a take that I don't think that I have seen or heard much of. One that I think is important is that this isn't 50% of the American people. I think that the discussion about this, Trump not only won the Electoral College, but the popular vote. And so that means that the majority of Americans want this strongman dictator. It is a quick answer. It is a painful answer. It is a partially true answer. There are more people who opted into Trump, hearing and knowing what he has done and said for the past 8 years, the felony convictions, the sexual assaults, the pictures with Epstein, the whole nine, the I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, the brazen rhetoric, the cozying up to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, and they still chose this. And they chose it because they wanted those things. That is, I can't deny that. I don't think that was the motivating factor for everyone who checked this box, though I do think that the comfort that some people had with checking that box, recognizing that they were signing up for all of those other things, does give me pause. It saddens me. It makes me think about how willing it seems that a number of folks are willing to put Black people, immigrants, not just illegal immigrants, but increasingly just immigrants on the chopping block, trans people, LGBTQ folk of all sorts of stripes, political dissenters, people who just aren't towing the party line, Democrats who have been called they're saying they're poisoning the blood of our nation. As I think it's Jay Williams J on TikTok, he said, I guess we should just hope that was all rhetoric. We should just hope that we're lying about all of those things, that they're not actually going to do those things. It seems strange to me that someone would believe that after they have said something like that so many times, gathered around themselves so many people who think that way, that the reason that they show up is because somebody said, oh, you're going to do violence to marginalize folks? I'm down for that. When you surround yourself with a bunch of people who feel that way, regardless of whether or not you feel it, if you keep saying it, that's what's going to happen. So to the folks out there who may have checked that box being like, nah, Trump's not really going to do that, I hope you're right. I genuinely hope you're right. But I can't let thoughts about that man and his people and whatnot dictate my life and what I do moving forward. I've been down that path before. I know what I looked like on the other side. What I really came here to say, re-up your meds if you got them. Start taking those walks if you haven't been. Spend a little time exercising in a way that you can. I don't say these things because it's like, gear up for a fight. I say them because already I am noticing in me a decline in my maximum capacity. I think it took some time being in the Biden administration, right? Or not being in it, I wasn't part of it. But the last 4 years, it took us time to be able to come down from the constantly embroiled in fear, scrolling Twitter first thing in the morning, wondering what the hell was going to happen next. I feel like I just got to the point where I could talk about, like, I really want to do this project for Intelligame. I want to build this thing. I want to write this thing. I want to, like, live my life for me. I want to invest in my relationships. I want to play a tabletop role-playing game. I want to make sure I get home and visit my family. Like, those were the things that were becoming the priorities in my head because I was not living in a space of constant fear. a space of constant fear that, let's be frank, the Republican Party has been fomenting amongst their base constantly. There is always a new thing to be afraid of. I mean, even the anti-woke movement here in games, where every game that comes out is woke and is a representation of the woke cabal taking over. Dragon Age? What did you expect? I don't did you play any of the others? Trans content in Dragon Age means that the woke cabal took over? Like, it's always been there, my friend. And the number of games that, when the Stellar Blade controversy was showing up, it was like, I genuinely think nobody cared that much until it was chosen as this wedge issue. This is a real, you know what, I'm not even going to keep spending time on that, other than to say that when we exist in a space of fear, perhaps it stirs us to quick action. If it does not, encourage us to freeze. Right? What are the responses? Fight, flight, fawn, freeze. I think there's another one now. I don't know. The more fear that we're exposed to, the quicker we get shoved into our reactive behavior. And I genuinely believe that as we walk into whatever the next section, era, whatever you want to call it, on the timeline, we have to be able to make good, conscious choices. We have to be able to maintain our awareness and our morality and our hope and our strength in the midst of what will be a consistent fear. A fear that will attempt to chip away at our humanity. A fear that will justify acts of complete inhumanity. And I think that if we maybe remember to take our meds, be in that habit of going for that walk, connect with community, volunteer in our local community, doing some of those things counteracts the fear. It gives us a space to be able to recognize that we do still have influence, that we do still have humanity. People who look like me in this country have been told for generations, no humanity, less than humanity, 3/5 of humanity, for the purposes of counting population, so that we can determine how much power to give to the white people who supposedly own us, right? And continually we have to prove to ourselves, human, very much human, very much deserving of comfort and compassion and care and dignity and purpose and future and hope and love and anger and justice and so many other things. This battle for humanity has not been exclusive to Black folks in the United States, but it is an ongoing battle. And again, though I do believe that there are a number of people who have found themselves in a closer proximity to the majority culture, a majority white culture, that would say that there is not a fear to carry, that supposedly they have found an equality, they have found a humanity, they've been gifted a humanity. That they have earned a humanity. The you know, I the question that I keep thinking, right? It, am I going to have to prove that I'm not an immigrant? Are my Latino friends, are they going to have to prove that they're not an immigrant? Do they need to carry a card, carry papers with them when the local militia shows up? That story is a true story, by the way, or a variation on a true story, because um, back in 2020, when we had that massive voter turnout, remember we also had massive fires. Here outside of Portland, we had a number of raging fires to the point that many of us here in Portland for the first time pack in a go bag. There were people who were evacuating from the small towns south of us, and there were roadside militia checkpoints. White men with guns searching for, the fire starters. There was a conspiracy that the fires were being started by. So looking for leftists, looking for Antifa, was coming out and starting the fire. You might think that Donald Trump wouldn't do that to you. You might think that whoever you saw on the Republican stage wouldn't do that to you. Do you think that your local militia won't do that to you? Do you think they feel the same way? Do you think they have all the same morals and ethics and goodness that you ascribe to the folks who are talking about the people who live here that are poisoning the blood of our nation? I don't think that's how that works. So, friends, do what you need to do to take care of yourself, to power yourself, to empower yourself. If you've been lax on some of what I would consider the long-term self-care, I mean, like, yes, we're still very much in the wake of it. If you need to do the short-term things, have a pizza, take a bubble bath, dive into a game and check out for a little bit. Mourn, feel the feelings, all those things. However, when you come back, I saw a TikTok that was saying, on Monday, we go to work. And somebody commented, was like, Monday's a holiday. It's like, okay, on Tuesday, we go to work. When you come back, recognize that part of the work that you have to do is to take care of you. Taking care of you is perhaps the core act of resistance. finding the way to keep yourself going. Doing the things that feel simple and frankly are overwhelming. My bed, I have been sleeping here in the basement the past few days because the idea of I washed my sheets. The idea of having to go up and make my bed, too much. I did my laundry, washed my sheets, and I washed a bunch of clothes and put them all in the laundry basket, and they are all in one giant pile on top of my bed. And I was not ready to tackle that pile yesterday. I wasn't ready the day before. And I am not going to shame myself for that. But I do know that part of me doing the work is eventually going up there and folding those clothes and making that bed. And I know that when I do, that's going to feel like one little step. It's going to be one choice. One choice that puts me a little closer to making the next choice, making the next choice, making the next choice. And if those choices are only able to just push you to a better point of stability when you make them, so be it. That is the work. Your survival is the work. But if you've got that something in you right now that says, I've got more work, I've got more in me, I've got more that I want to do, you're not alone. The consistent thing amongst most all the folks that I talked to was that, for as heartbroken as they may have been, they were ready to move in a way that they weren't in 2016. Some folks are like, I'm ready to move, to leave. Some people were like, I'm ready to make moves and stay. Realize that, yes, the situation has advanced since 2016. Yes, they've leveled up. Whatever administration finds its way into the White House is going to likely be far more vitriolic. You're going to have control of the Senate, the White House, the Supreme Court, possibly the House of Representatives. The people that they plan to install and the people that they plan to remove with Project 2025, we don't know what to predict. It's true. They have leveled up. But the truth of the matter, and I think if you look at yourself and take an honest assessment, we've leveled up too. It hits different this time. And we know at least some of the playbook. We've had time to develop connections with each other, to better understand ourselves, to get a sense of what it is we're fighting for. And we also know some of the things that we need to work on. Some of the ways that we may need to make space for people who feel like they don't have a place on the left. Ways that we have to figure out how to make space for each other already on the left. To be able to work in larger scale. Find ways to build trust, to give grace. Those projects and so many more. That's going to be our work. I don't have some big charming sign off to leave with. I don't even know exactly what this is. Just a part of some of the processing I'm doing, I think. But I do believe still we can't give up. We can't lose hope. We have to keep creating it. To lean into a future fueled by fear is to lean into a future, I mean, frankly, that we're seeing play out in real time. One where the climate is abandoned, one where false accusations and straw men and strong men shape the world. We deserve better. And we take those small steps. We take the small steps knowing that they push us closer to the larger steps that we take together. There's a weird mixed metaphor in there, but it's kind of coming off the dome right now, so like give me give me some space. I do still have hope. I hope you do too. Keep your eyes up. Keep your hearts open. Keep intelligaming. See you soon.